There is a moment in every person's life, usually late at night, when the world is quiet and the distractions have faded, where they look at their hands and wonder why they are empty. They wonder why, after all the effort, after all the years, the feeling of abundance still eludes them. They wonder why wealth feels like a door that is always just slightly closed. Most people believe that riches are something you chase, something you pursue, something you catch only if you are fast enough, or lucky enough, or smart enough. But what if the chase itself is the very thing keeping you poor? What if the secret to having everything is acting as if you already do? Not pretending, not delusion, something deeper, something that the old philosophers and the great thinkers understood, but that modern society has forgotten. Tonight, we are going to sit with that idea. We are going to slow down. We are going to breathe. And we are going to explore a principle so powerful that when understood fully, it changes the very fabric of your reality. Let us begin with a simple observation about human nature. It is something you have likely felt yourself, perhaps many times, without ever giving it a name. Watch the way a person moves through the world when they feel invisible, when they feel overlooked, when they feel like they are standing outside a warm room, pressing their face against the glass, looking in at a life they cannot touch, a life that seems reserved for other people, luckier people, better people, people who somehow belong on the other side of that glass. Their shoulders tighten. Slowly, over time, almost without noticing it, their posture changes. They begin to collapse inward, as if trying to take up less space, as if apologizing for their very existence. Their gaze drops to the floor. Their voice becomes smaller, quieter, less certain. When they speak, they trail off at the end of sentences, as if they do not believe their own words are worth hearing. They walk into a room full of people, full of possibility, and without saying a single word, they announce to everyone present, "I do not belong here. I am not one of you. I am waiting for someone to notice me, to validate me, to give me permission to exist in this space." And here is the cruel irony. The world obliges. The world always obliges. People sense that lack of belonging. They sense the uncertainty, the self-doubt, the quiet desperation, and without malice, without even meaning to, they treat that person accordingly. They look past them, they speak over them, they forget to include them, not because people are cruel, but because the universe has a strange way of reflecting back to us exactly what we project. Now, watch the way a person moves when they feel deeply seen, when they feel valued, when they know, without a shred of doubt, that they have something to offer, something unique, something important, something that no one else in the world can give in quite the same way. Their shoulders relax, they breathe easily, deeply, fully. Their eyes meet yours, and there is no flicker of fear, no quick darting away. They hold your gaze because they are not afraid of being seen. Their voice carries a weight that is impossible to ignore, not loud, not aggressive, but grounded, certain. When they speak, people listen, not because they demand attention, but because attention naturally flows toward anyone who is fully present. They walk into a room, and the room adjusts to them. Subtly, imperceptibly, the energy shifts. Conversations open up to include them. Opportunities seem to find them. Doors that remain closed for others swing open at their approach. Here's the hidden problem that most people ignore for their entire lives. The problem that keeps them trapped in mediocrity, in quiet desperation, in the painful gap between the life they have and the life they dream of. The way you move through the world is determined entirely by the story you are telling yourself about who you are. Not the story you tell others at parties, not the carefully curated version you present on social media, but the deep, private, often unspoken story that runs beneath the surface of your consciousness like an underground river. The story that plays on repeat in the quiet hours of the night when there is no one else around to perform for. If you believe you're lacking, if you believe that you are not enough, that you do not have enough, that you will never have enough, you will act like someone who is lacking. Every decision you make will be filtered through that lens of scarcity. Every opportunity that knocks will be evaluated from a position of fear. Every risk worth taking will feel too dangerous. because people who feel lacking cannot afford to lose anything. They believe they have nothing to spare, and when you act like someone who is lacking, the world treats you like someone who is lacking. It is not punishment. It is not conspiracy. It is simply the law of cause and effect, as reliable as gravity. Think of it as a silent conversation you are having with the universe. You are constantly broadcasting a signal whether you realize it or not, and the universe, being a perfect mirror, broadcasts back exactly what you send out. If your signal says, "I am small, I am scared, I am unworthy," the reflection says, "Here is more smallness. Here is more fear. Here is more evidence of your unworthiness." If your signal says, "I am whole, I am capable, I am ready," the reflection says, "Here is the world opening up to meet you. This is the cycle, the closed loop, the cage built from your own assumptions, reinforced by years of habit, until the bars feel solid and real and impossible to escape." Most people spend their entire lives waiting for the external world to change their internal state. They strike a bargain with reality. They say to themselves, "Once I have the money, I will feel confident. Once I have the success, I will feel worthy. Once I have the house, the car, the recognition, the respect of my peers, then finally, once all of that is in place, I will relax into the person I was always meant to be." It sounds reasonable. It sounds practical. It sounds like the way things should work. But it is backwards. Completely, entirely, tragically backwards. The external world does not lead. It follows. It is a mirror, remember? And a mirror does not create the image. It only reflects what is already there. If you are standing in front of a mirror and you are frowning, the reflection does not smile first and hope that you will catch up. The reflection follows your lead instantly and perfectly. You cannot wait for the wealth to arrive before you become the person who deserves it, because the wealth is not coming to the person you are right now, the person who feels lacking, who acts from scarcity, who broadcasts smallness with every word and gesture and unconscious movement. The wealth is coming to the person you are becoming, and that becoming must happen first, inside, in the quiet, in the darkness, before the dawn. This is where the journey begins, not with a bank account, not with a business plan, not with any of the outer trappings that people chase so desperately, thinking they will finally feel whole once they catch them. It begins with a quiet, internal shift that no one else can see. A shift so subtle that you might not even notice it at first. A shift in the story you tell yourself about who you are and what you deserve. It begins with the decision to stop waiting for the mirror to change, and to change instead the face you are showing to the mirror. It begins tonight. There is a mental trap that catches almost everyone. It does not discriminate based on age, education, or background. It catches the young person just starting out, and it catches the older person looking back on a life of unfulfilled dreams. It is subtle. It does not announce itself with bells or warnings. It feels in the moment like clear thinking, like being practical, like finally getting serious about reality. The trap is this: believing that your current circumstances are a permanent truth. When you look at your life right now, the money in your pocket or the lack of it, the balance in your bank account, whether it brings you comfort or anxiety, the roof over your head, the car in the driveway, the job you wake up to every morning, when you look at these things, you see facts. Hard, cold, undeniable facts. Numbers on a statement, bills in the mail. The reality of your present situation, pressing down on you with the weight of evidence, and because these things are real, because you can touch them and see them and feel their consequences, you assume they are the truth. The final truth, the only truth worth basing your life upon. But here is what the wise ones have always known, across every culture and every century: facts are not truth. Facts are simply the outcome of past thinking. They are the residue of yesterday. They are the echo of choices already made, beliefs already held, actions already taken. Think of it like this. Imagine you are standing in a field, and at your feet there is a small puddle of water left over from a rainstorm that passed hours ago. That puddle is real. You can see it. You can touch it. If you step in it, your foot will get wet. That is a fact. But is that puddle the truth about the weather? Is it the final statement on what the sky can deliver? Of course not. The puddle is simply what remains of a storm that has already moved on. It has no power over the next storm or the sun that may come tomorrow and evaporate it entirely. Your current circumstances are that puddle. They are real. They are present, but they are not the truth about what is possible for you. They are simply the leftover evidence of where you have been, not a limitation on where you can go. Most people never notice this distinction. They live their entire lives mistaking the puddle for the ocean. They look at their current situation and they use it as evidence for what is possible. They construct an entire philosophy of life based on the small temporary puddle at their feet. They say to themselves, I have $5 in my pocket, therefore I am a person with $5. I have a small house in an ordinary neighborhood, therefore I am a person who lives in a small house. I have a limited income from a job that drains me, therefore I am a person of limited means, and I must accept that limitation as my destiny. And because they define themselves by what they currently have by the puddle, not the sky, they never stretch beyond it. They never look up. They never notice that the clouds are gathering, that the next storm is on its way, that the sun is waiting behind the horizon. Napoleon Hill spent more than 20 years studying the richest and most accomplished people of his time. He did not study them from a distance, reading newspaper clippings and second-hand accounts. He sat with them. He interviewed them. He asked them questions that no one else thought to ask, because he was driven by a burning curiosity to understand what made them different. And what he discovered, again and again, was that these individuals had a strange and beautiful relationship with reality. They did not ignore reality. They were not foolish dreamers who walked around with their heads in the clouds, tripping over obstacles that everyone else could see. They were practical people. They were builders, creators, doers, but they understood something that the average person does not, something that cannot be taught in schools or found in textbooks. The present moment is not a prison. It is a starting point. The average person looks at their present moment and sees walls. They see boundaries. They see the edges of their existence drawn in sharp lines by their current bank balance, their current job, their current circumstances. And because they see walls, they stop moving. They settle. They accept. They make peace with the smallness of their lives. The great achievers look at the exact same present moment and see a floor, a foundation, a place to stand while they reach for something higher. They do not deny the reality of where they are. That would be foolishness. But they also do not allow where they are to define who they are. This is the crucial difference. This is the line between a life of quiet desperation and a life of quiet expansion. The average person says, I am poor, therefore I am a poor person. The achiever says, I am currently experiencing a lack of money, but that is a temporary condition, not a permanent identity. Do you hear the difference? It is subtle, but it is everything. One statement binds you to your circumstances. It welds your identity to your situation, so that if your situation ever changes, and it might, life is unpredictable, your identity would have to be broken and rebuilt. But more often the situation does not change because the identity holds it firmly in place. The other statement creates space. It inserts a gap between who you are and what you are experiencing. And in that gap, there is room to breathe, room to grow, room for something new to enter. This is the heart of what Hill observed in the great ones. They separated their identity from their circumstances. They refused to let the temporary facts of their lives become the permanent truth of their being. Andrew Carnegie started as a poor immigrant boy working in a cotton factory. If he had looked at his circumstances and said, I am a factory worker, therefore I am a factory worker forever, he would have died unknown and unfulfilled. But he looked at his circumstances and said, this is where I am standing today, but it is not who I am. Who I am is still being formed. Henry Ford faced bankruptcy and failure multiple times before he succeeded. If he had looked at each failure as proof of who he was, he would have given up long before the Model T ever rolled off the assembly line. But he saw each failure as a fact, not a truth, a fact to be learned from, not an identity to be accepted. Most people never make this distinction. They live their whole lives inside the trap. mistaking the walls of their current situation for the boundaries of human possibility. They look at someone who has achieved great wealth and they say, well, they had advantages I don't have. They were lucky. They were in the right place at the right time. And maybe that is true. Maybe some of them did have advantages. But many of them started with nothing or less than nothing. Many of them faced obstacles that would have crushed an ordinary person. The difference was not in their circumstances. The difference was in their relationship to their circumstances. They refused to let the puddle define the sky. This is the trap, and the first step out of it is simply to notice that you are in it. To catch yourself in the quiet moments when you are defining yourself by what you currently have or currently lack. To pause and ask, is this a fact or is this the truth? Is this a temporary condition or am I making it permanent? Because once you see the trap, you can begin to step out of it. And once you step out, everything changes. Now we arrive at the threshold, the place where understanding begins to transform into something you can actually use. The principle that, once grasped, changes everything about how you move through the world. Napoleon Hill wrote about a concept he called the invisible counselors. It is one of the most misunderstood and most powerful ideas in all of his work. And if you can sit with it quietly, if you can let it sink past your intellectual mind and into the deeper waters of your consciousness, it will begin to work on you in ways you cannot yet imagine. Here's what Hill did. Every night, just before sleeping, he would close his eyes and imagine a large table in a grand room. Seated around that table were the greatest minds in human history. He would invite them one by one into his imagination. Abraham Lincoln, Andrew Carnegie, Thomas Edison, Charles Darwin. He would see their faces clearly. He would hear their voices, and he would speak to them. He would ask them questions about the challenges he was facing, the problems he was trying to solve, the path he was trying to find. And in his imagination, they would answer. Now, to the outside world, this sounds strange, perhaps even foolish. A grown man, a respected thinker, a writer who advised presidents sitting alone in a room, talking to imaginary people. If you had walked in on him, you might have wondered about his sanity. You might have questioned whether his years of research had finally unhinged him. But Hill understood something profound, something that modern psychology is only now beginning to verify. He understood that the imagination is not an escape from reality. It is a rehearsal for reality. It is the rehearsal for reality. It is the workshop where the soul prepares for what is to come. When you imagine yourself as already possessing the thing you desire, not just seeing it with your mind's eye, but feeling it in your bones, experiencing the emotions that come with it, you are doing something far more powerful than wishful thinking. You are programming your subconscious mind to accept that state as normal. You are carving neural pathways that will eventually become highways. You are telling the deepest part of yourself, this is who I am, this is how I feel, this is my natural state. And once your subconscious accepts something as normal, it begins to guide your behavior toward that state without you even trying. It works in the background while you sleep, while you go about your daily tasks, while you are focused on other things. It begins to notice opportunities that match your new inner state. It begins to attract people and circumstances that resonate with the frequency you are broadcasting. It begins to quietly, persistently move you in the direction of your imagined reality. Think about it this way. Have you ever noticed how easy it is to be polite when you are in a good mood? You do not have to force it. You do not have to remind yourself to smile or say please or hold the door for a stranger. It just happens, effortlessly, naturally, because the feeling of being in a good mood is already alive inside you, and the behavior flows from the feeling like water flowing downhill. Now, have you ever noticed how difficult it is to be polite when you are feeling angry or resentful or exhausted? You can try. You can force a smile onto your face. You can say the right words, the socially acceptable words, but it feels heavy. It feels false. It feels like acting, because the behavior is not flowing from the feeling. It is being imposed on top of the feeling, and the mismatch is palpable to everyone around you. The same principle applies to wealth. The same principle applies to success. The same principle applies to every area of life where you desire a different result than the one you are currently getting. If you feel poor inside, if you feel lacking, worried, anxious, fearful about money, then no amount of positive thinking will create authentic wealth. You can repeat affirmations until your throat is sore. You can paste vision boards on every wall of your home. You can read every self-help book ever written. But if the underlying feeling is still one of scarcity, the outer world will continue to reflect scarcity back to you. Why? Because the behavior you project to the world will be tinged with that inner scarcity. It will leak out in 1,000 subtle ways. In the hesitation when you name your price, in the apologetic tone when you ask to be paid what you are worth, in the decisions you make from a place of fear rather than a place of faith, in the opportunities you miss because you are looking down at the ground instead of up at the sky. You will hold back when you should invest. You will play small when you should expand. You will settle for safety when greatness is calling. But if you cultivate the feeling of abundance inside, if you sit quietly for just a few minutes each day and allow yourself to feel the gratitude and the ease and the quiet confidence of already having what you seek, then something begins to shift. It is subtle at first, almost imperceptible, but slowly your behavior begins to align with that inner feeling. You become more relaxed in conversations about money, more open to possibilities you would have dismissed before, more willing to take intelligent, calculated risks. You stop chasing opportunities and start attracting them. You stop begging the world to notice you and start standing quietly in your power, knowing that what is meant for you will find you. This is not magic. It is not mysticism. It is psychology. It is the alignment of your inner state with your outer desires. It is the oldest teaching in the world, dressed in new clothes. The ancient wisdom traditions called it as above, so below. The philosophers called it know thyself. The psychologists call it self-fulfilling prophecy. Napoleon Hill called it the invisible counselors. The name does not matter. What matters is the truth it contains. You become what you feel yourself to be, not what you think about, not what you hope for, not what you desperately want, what you feel. Because feeling is the language of the subconscious, and the subconscious is the part of you that actually runs the show. Listen carefully to this part. It is important. Your conscious mind can entertain thoughts that your subconscious mind rejects. You can think, I want to be rich, while your subconscious is still operating from the deeply held belief that rich people are greedy, that money is the root of evil, that people like you do not deserve abundance. And when that happens, nothing changes. Because the conscious mind is the suggester, but the subconscious is the decider. The only way to change the subconscious is to speak to it in its own language. And its language is not words. It is not logic. It is not reasoned argument. Its language is feeling, sensation, emotion, experience. When you imagine yourself as already rich, and you allow yourself to feel the relief, the gratitude, the freedom that comes with that state, you are speaking directly to your subconscious in a language it understands. You are bypassing the skeptical, analytical, doubting conscious mind and going straight to the source of your automatic behavior. This is what Hill discovered. This is what the great ones have always known. And this is what is available to you tonight in this quiet moment, if you are willing to practice it. Let us now turn our attention to those who have walked this path before us, not to idolize them or place them on a pedestal, but to study the contours of their thinking, to understand the inner architecture that supported their outer achievements, because in understanding how they thought, we begin to see how we might think as well. Consider the artist who paints a masterpiece. Before the brush ever touches the canvas, before the first stroke of color is applied, the painting already exists, fully formed, vibrantly alive, completely real in the mind and heart of the artist. They can see it, they can feel it, they can walk through it in their imagination, noticing how the light falls across the foreground, how the shadows gather in the corners, how the composition draws the eye exactly where they want it to go. The artist does not wait to see the first stroke to believe in the work. The belief comes first. The vision comes first. The feeling comes first. The painting on the canvas is merely the physical manifestation of something that was already complete in another realm. Now consider the architect who designed a great building before the foundation is dug, before the steel is raised, Before a single worker arrives on site, the building stands complete in the architect's mind. They walk through the hallways in their imagination, feeling the spaciousness of the rooms. They stand at the windows, noticing how the morning light will enter. They run their hands along the railings that do not yet exist, experiencing the texture, the weight, the solidity of what is still only a vision. The architect does not need to see the blueprints to know the building is real. The blueprints come after the vision. The construction comes after the blueprints. But the building itself, the essential idea of it, the soul of it, exists from the very beginning, long before anyone else can see it. This is the way of the Creator. This is the pattern that repeats itself in every field of human endeavor, from the highest art to the most practical invention. The visible world is always shaped by the invisible world. The outer is always a reflection of the inner. The thing that can be seen and touched and measured is always the offspring of something that cannot. And you, whether you realize it or not, are a creator. You are building a life every single day with your thoughts, your beliefs, your expectations, your deepest feelings about yourself and the world. You are the architect of your experience, the artist of your existence. The only question is whether you are building consciously or unconsciously. Most people build unconsciously. They let the world around them, the news, the opinions of others, the current balance in their bank account, the expectations of their family, the fears planted in childhood dictate what they believe is possible. They react to life instead of creating it. They build with whatever materials are thrown at them, never stopping to ask whether those materials are worthy of the structure they could create. They wake up one day, perhaps 20 years from now, perhaps 40, and look around at the life they have built and wonder how it happened. How did they end up here? How did the walls become so small? How did the ceiling become so low? And the answer, quietly, painfully, is that they built it this way, one unconscious choice at a time. But the great achievers, the ones Hill studied for more than 2 decades, they built consciously. They understood, not as a theory, but as a living reality, that the outer world is shaped by the inner world. They knew that the visible is temporary, but the invisible is eternal. They knew that what can be seen in the physical world today is simply the accumulated result of what was thought and felt and believed yesterday. Andrew Carnegie, one of the richest men in human history, started with nothing. He was born in a small cottage in Scotland, into a family that knew poverty intimately. He came to America as a poor immigrant boy and went to work in a cotton factory, earning barely enough to survive. If he had looked at his circumstances and accepted them as the final truth, he would have died unknown, buried in an unmarked grave. But in his mind, even as he worked in that factory, even as he slept in cramped rooms and ate simple food, he was already wealthy. He carried himself with the dignity of a man who had already arrived. He made decisions from the perspective of abundance, not scarcity. He saw opportunities where others saw only obstacles. He invested in himself, in his education, in his vision, long before anyone else believed in him. And slowly, over time, the outer world bent to match his inner vision. Not through magic, not through wishful thinking, through the quiet, persistent alignment of his actions with his inner state. Because when you feel abundant, you act abundantly. And when you act abundantly, the world responds abundantly. This does not mean that hard work is unnecessary. It does not mean that action is optional. It does not mean you can sit in a room, visualize wealth, and wait for it to fall from the sky like rain. That is a misunderstanding of the principle, and it has led many people to disappointment and cynicism. It means that action guided by a powerful inner state is infinitely more effective than action driven by fear and desperation. It means that the quality of your effort is determined by the quality of your consciousness. It means that 2 people can do the exact same things and get completely different results, because one is operating from a place of inner lack and the other from a place of inner abundance. The desperate man makes poor decisions. He grasps at opportunities that are not really opportunities. He clutches at relationships that are not healthy. He pushes against doors that are not ready to open, exhausting himself on obstacles that patience would have dissolved. He negotiates from weakness, and the other party always senses it. He chases money, and money, being a shy and elusive thing, runs away. The man who feels already whole, already complete, already abundant. He makes clear decisions. He waits when waiting is wise. He acts when action is called for. He does not push against closed doors. He simply stands ready for the ones that will open. He does not chase. He attracts. He does not beg. He serves. He does not worry. He prepares. This is the difference. This is the secret. This is how great achievers think differently. They understand that the primary work is always inner work. They know that the battlefield is the mind, and the victory is won or lost long before any outer evidence appears. And so they attend to their inner state with the same care that a farmer attends to the soil. They weed out thoughts of lack and limitation. They water the seeds of abundance and possibility. They wait patiently, faithfully for the harvest that must come. Because it must come, it cannot help but come. The inner always becomes the outer. The invisible always becomes visible. The seed always becomes the tree. The only question is what seed you are planting. So where does this leave you? Tonight, in this quiet moment, with the world outside your window either sleeping or rushing or worrying or dreaming, where does this leave you? It leaves you at a threshold, a place of choice, a crossroads that no one else can see and no one else can cross for you. These moments do not come with fanfare. They do not announce themselves with bells or trumpets. They arrive quietly, softly, almost imperceptibly, like the first light of dawn creeping over the horizon before the sun has shown its face. You can continue. You can continue exactly as you have been. You can continue to look at your current circumstances as the final truth, the ultimate verdict on what is possible for someone like you. You can continue to let the size of your bank account determine the size of your dreams. You can continue to let the opinions of others shape your sense of what you deserve. You can continue to wait for the world to change before you change. You can continue to hope that someday, somehow, things will be different without ever becoming different yourself. Many people choose this path. Most people, in fact. They choose it not because they are lazy or stupid or unworthy. They choose it because it is familiar, because it requires nothing of them, because it is easier to stay in a prison you know than to walk toward a freedom you have never experienced. The devil you know, as the saying goes. But there is another choice, another path, another way of moving through the world. You can begin, right now, in this very moment, to practice a different way of being. Not tomorrow, not next week, not when the conditions are perfect and the stars have aligned and you finally feel ready. Now, in the silence of this night, in the privacy of your own awareness, you do not need to announce it to anyone. You do not need to post about it on social media or tell your friends or seek validation from the people around you. In fact, it is better if you do not. This is not a performance. This is not a show. This is the deepest, most intimate work a human being can do, and it requires no audience, no applause, no external confirmation. You do not need to change anything in your outer life just yet. Do not quit your job. Do not empty your bank account. Do not make any dramatic gestures that the world will notice. The outer world is not ready for the new you, and the new you is not yet strong enough to withstand the outer world's skepticism. Let the outer world wait. Let it sleep. Let it continue on its current course while you, in the quiet, begin to chart a new one. All you need to do is sit quietly. Find a few minutes, perhaps just before sleep, perhaps in the early morning before the demands of the day begin, perhaps right now, in this moment, as you listen to these words. Close your eyes if it feels right. Take a breath and allow yourself to feel just for a few minutes, just for a few moments, what it would feel like to already have what you are seeking. If you are seeking financial abundance, feel the relief. Feel the release of tension in your shoulders, the unclenching of your jaw, the softening of your belly. Feel what it is like to know, deep in your bones, that the bills are paid, that there is more than enough, that you are secure. Feel the gratitude rising in your chest, warm and steady, for the abundance that flows through your life. Feel the freedom of not having to worry, not having to calculate, not having to hold back. Feel the quiet confidence of a person who knows they are provided for. If you are seeking love, feel the warmth of being fully seen and fully accepted. Feel the safety of genuine connection, the joy of mutual understanding, the peace of not having to perform or pretend. Feel the love flowing toward you and through you and from you, an endless river that asks nothing and gives everything. If you are seeking purpose, feel the deep satisfaction of doing work that matters. Feel the alignment between your gifts and the world's needs. Feel the quiet hum of being exactly where you are supposed to be, doing exactly what you are supposed to do. Do not force it. Do not strain. Do not try so hard that you create tension where there should be ease. Simply breathe and let the feeling wash over you like water. If it comes only faintly at first, that is enough. If it lasts only a few seconds, that is enough. You are planting seeds, not harvesting forests. The harvest will come in its own time. If doubt comes, and it will, doubt always comes. Simply acknowledge it and let it pass. Doubt is just an old habit. It is the voice of the person you used to be, trying to protect you from disappointment by keeping you small. Thank it for its concern and let it go. It does not have to be your master. It does not have to have the final word. You can feel doubt and still choose to feel abundance. You can hear the voice of fear and still choose to listen to the voice of faith. This is the practice. This is the discipline. This is the secret that the old masters knew and that modern society has forgotten in its rush toward speed and efficiency and instant results. You are not pretending to be rich. You are not engaging in wishful thinking or self-deception. You are aligning yourself with the frequency of abundance. You are tuning your instrument to the right key so that when the music comes, and it will come, you will be ready to play. You are clearing the channel so that what is meant for you can find its way to you without interference. Napoleon Hill called this the definite chief aim, a burning desire, an obsession with a goal so deep, so clear, so fully felt that it becomes part of your very identity. Not something you want, but something you are. Not something you hope for, but something you already experience. In the only place where experience truly matters, the inner world of feeling and imagination. But it begins with a feeling. It begins in the quiet. It begins tonight. The ancient wisdom traditions taught that we do not attract what we want. We attract what we are. The universe is not a vending machine where you put in a thought and get back a thing. It is a mirror reflecting back to you the deepest truth of your being. If you are lack, you attract more lack. If you are abundance, you attract more abundance. If you are fear, you attract more reasons to fear. If you are faith, you attract more reasons to have faith. So the work is not to get what you want. The work is to become the person who already has it, to embody it so fully, to feel it so deeply, to know it so completely, that the outer world has no choice but to conform to your inner state. This is not a quick fix. It is not a technique you apply once and then forget. It is a way of living, a way of being, an orientation toward life that grows stronger with practice, deeper with time, more natural with each passing day. And it is available to you right now, in this moment, not because you are special or chosen or uniquely gifted, but because you are human. Because this is how the human mind works. Because this is the path that has been walked by every person who has ever achieved anything worth achieving. So as you drift off to sleep, or as you sit in the stillness of this late hour, or as you go about the ordinary tasks of your ordinary day, allow yourself to carry this one thought with you. Hold it gently, like a candle flame cupped in your hands, protecting it from the winds of doubt and fear and skepticism. You are not waiting for wealth to arrive. Wealth is waiting for you to arrive. Become the person who already has it inside, where it matters most, in the quiet depths where the real work is done, and the outer world will have no choice but to follow. It must follow. It cannot help but follow, because the outer world is just a shadow cast by the inner light, and when the light changes, the shadow changes with it. Sleep well, rest deeply, and dream abundantly, not of what you hope to have someday, but of what you already are, right now, in the only place where it truly counts. The dawn is coming. and you will be ready.